Hello teachers, and thank you so much for joining this live streamed community event on the Teaching English Facebook, YouTube and Instagram accounts. Today we're diving into a follow-up to a recent webinar we did all about activating grammar in your classrooms. My name is Marcus James. I'm part of the Teaching English team at the British Council, and we're being joined by the very own presenter of that session, Jane. How are you today, Jane?
I'm fine, thank you. just enjoying life today.
That's what it's all about. So teachers watching, if you have any questions for Jane about how best to activate grammar in your English classroom, do pop it in the live chat. We've got Wayam helping out in the comments, so she'll be passing on your comments to us. So Jane, for teachers who have been following the webinar that you did last Friday, we've been still talking about it on our community platforms for the past week, and there's quite an interesting thread that has been going through a lot of the conversations, specifically what you brought up, the MMM framework.
Oh, I
And
love
a lot of
it.
teachers were comparing it to the PPP. So, in your words, how would you describe what the difference is, or are they essentially the same thing?
Well, I wouldn't call it the same thing because I think the PPP is very much a teacher-fronted framework, isn't it? Where the teacher is presenting and then giving the practice activities and setting everything. Whereas the MMM framework is much more learner-centered. It was actually created, and I first came across it in a book called the Primary English Teacher's Guide by Gail Ellis and Brewster, and it was just hidden away in there. And it really resonated with me. So they were talking about how the MMM framework is used for young learners or younger learners, where they meet the language. And if you think about meeting and then manipulating and making it their own, but if you think about that word meet, it's much more equal, isn't it? And it's more about everything coming together. So they're not being presented it, they are meeting it in a conversation, in a dialogue, or in a game perhaps. Then they're given the opportunity to play with it, and that's what the manipulate stage is about. It's about using it and doing something with it so that it changes it, and they're experimenting with it and perhaps hypothesizing a little bit where they're doing it. Obviously the teacher has to give those activities, but it's the learners that are exploring that language. And really what we want at the end of the lesson is another kind of activity where they can really use it and make it their own. So you want them to leave the lesson with a sense of belonging about the language. And I just think this whole framework, it isn't just about young learners, it's more just humanistic, isn't it? It's about not just young learners, like I say, but everything we do, we tend to meet something like we're meeting the framework and everyone's meeting it now. You go away and you think about it and you use it and you do something with it and change it to suit where you are and make it your own. And we do that in life with everything. To me, it's kind of a philosophy for life.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
not just
Yeah,
a
sorry
teaching
to jump in
framework.
there, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think you've really sort of hit the nail on the head there. I think as teachers, we try so hard. In a standard lesson, we've got the course book, we've got the
Mm-hmm.
introduction, the presentation of the language, we've got the controlled practice, the gap fills or a listening activity. Then you've got maybe a situation where the students have an opportunity to practice it in a more free way. But again, you're right. It's not that personal, is it? It's still
No.
kind of following the context of the book. So quick tips, Jane. We'll come back to those, give you some thinking time for how to personalize. I'd just like to give a quick hi and shout outs to teachers who are watching literally on all three platforms right now. I can see
Hello.
we've got on Facebook so many. We've got Saud in Libya. We've got Juanito in the Philippines. Nisha in Sri Lanka. And oh, so many on Instagram. I can see we've also got quite a good contingent in the Latin American part, Venezuela, Argentina. Thank you so much for joining us. If you do have any questions, do pop them in the live chat. So, Jane, how do you make it more personal for your learners?
I think my number one key would be to plan backwards. You want them to finish. You want to think about how they're going to finish a lesson using that language. And so you need to know what kind of language they need to use. You need to know what kind of language they want to use. And once you've identified that, you can plan it backwards. You can say, right, if I want them to have this conversation, then about whatever they're interested in, what language do they need to have it? Oh, they need this structure, they need this vocabulary. How am I going to then introduce it? How are they going to meet that language? And then what are you going to do to help them get really familiar with it and change it and everything? So I think that's probably my biggest tip when planning, is to think about what's going on at the end of the lesson and plan backwards. So start with your make it your own stage. Does that make sense? Oh, I can't hear you, Marcus.
That's because I muted myself. We've got a lovely comment from Patricia on YouTube, who asks, can we use MMM with adults? Greetings from Brazil.
Yes, hi to Brazil. Yes, we can. I think we can use MMM not just for presenting language. I think this is something we could do for vocabulary. Obviously, it's very similar, isn't it? And functional language. But also, if you think about skills, how we need to meet, or the learners need to meet how they're going to use certain skills, like in reading, they need to learn how to skim and scan. And we might help them meet those techniques, then give them some ideas to help manipulate it, and then they can make it their own by going off and doing that themselves. So this framework isn't restricted to young learners. It isn't restricted to language even, I think. And I'm in the process of creating a few blog posts and videos, YouTube videos as well, on fluency and how it can fit in with all these different skills as well. Coming up soon.
Excellent preview there. So, Jane, tell us a little bit about your background. So, who do you teach? Do you teach primary, secondary?
Well, I've been teaching for over 30 years. And when I started teaching, I was in Portugal, actually, teaching young learners, and I specialised in teaching young learners. But then I was the director of studies and did a lot of teacher training there as well, taught every age as you do. And then I moved over to the UK after I'd completed my master's in teaching English to young learners. So now I was teaching English in the UK, and then I've kind of got into teacher training. So I'm although I'm not teaching young learners anymore, I occasionally do teach academic English, and I am actually more focused on teacher training and working with teachers and helping them. But I've got so many ideas and stuff still to give, so I don't want that to disappear.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. Keep up the professional development. To always be improving. As one of the reasons teachers are joining us today, they've got a busy schedule. Back to back, Monday to Friday, or whatever the working week is, and yet they find time to join in the conversation, to
Yes.
take an idea or two, something to experiment with in their own classes, which is
Well, that's the manipulate bit, isn't it? Where you're taking their ideas, you're meeting these ideas, and all of these webinars that British Council present, they're taking a little bit of ideas from each one, but it's up to you as the teacher to then go, would this work with my adults? Try it, manipulate it, see if it will. And then as you do it more and more, it becomes your own. You go, okay, yes, it does work. That activity, I know it really well now. I don't have to keep planning it. The learners know it really well. I don't have to keep giving instructions. Oh, it's this activity, just using this language. You've got, that. And then that means that the focus in your lesson is so much more about the language and not about the task. So one of the points that we came across in the session was the first time they do an activity, they're learning the task. The second time, they're consolidating that, both task and language. But the third time they do it, they're focusing on the language they're using, and therefore making it their own at that point, really sort of being able to get fluent in what they know. Okay.
So Jane, you've blown my mind right there when you referred to the MMM framework. Again, not just for what we do in class, but for teachers in their own professional development.
Yes.
Like if teachers attended, I hope there's no too much background noise. If teachers attended your webinar, they took an idea, so they met the idea, they manipulated it, they made it their own.
Then they can put it into their classroom teaching themselves.
Yes, yes.
But not just my webinar.
Fantastic.
It's every webinar they go to. They can't, when you're a teacher, you can't just look at that activity and go, oh, well, that won't work with my kids. I'm not doing this language point. I'm not teaching this age group. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. But I like that activity. Then, okay, you like that activity. You can see there's value in it. You have to manipulate it. You have to adapt it to suit your individual teaching situation. And every class is different. So something that works with one class won't work with the other. You need to manipulate it again, even within your own teaching, to change it. Yeah. Until you get really, really confident doing it, then you can say, yes, this is my activity. I've made that my own, and I can do it with minimal planning and minimal, because that's what you want. You want to aim for fluency in your teaching, just like you want the learners to aim for fluency in their language. They can use it. They've made it their own. They can use it without thinking. You want to do the same with the teaching activities and ideas that are being presented in a webinar. I know it's all a bit loop.
Yeah, I mean, Jane, I think nothing better helps people understand quite like a practical example. So we've got a question from Omnia Al-Arabi on YouTube. Can you provide us with a practical example? Think about the last time you sort of implemented this framework. So take us through what you did and how you did it.
I tend to do it now, and in the teacher training mode. I would take an idea and present it to teachers for them to do it. But if we're talking about the language and how you want it to, is that what you mean? You want a practical example in the classroom as opposed to as a teacher or a trainer?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm guessing that Omnia Al-Arabi is from a teaching perspective. So what advice would you give to them on how to sort of implement it with a practical example?
Oh, I can't think on the spot.
It's okay. It's okay. Don't want to put you on the spot. We've got plenty of other questions.
Maybe you could give me an example of what language it is that you'd want to do. So if you were to teach, I don't know, you might start with a story of some sort. You've got them, and you want to present vocabulary, and it's in a story. That's how they're meeting it. But then they would take that and maybe change the story a bit to fit around the language. In the manipulate, they're doing that. There's so many ways. It's so difficult to say how you want them to do it. Real basic one would be, you start by, I mean, I love a chant. I love creating chants. Okay, so one of my chants that I do is, and you might have seen it on my YouTube channel, is yesterday I ate an apple. I've eaten an apple today. Tomorrow I'm going to eat an apple. I eat one every day. And then I get everyone to chant it again. Yesterday I ate an apple. I've eaten an apple today. Tomorrow I'm going to eat an apple. I eat one every day. Why do I like this so much? Well, can you see there's all of the verb forms in that chant? So that would be a way of meeting the 3 different verb forms for eat, ate, eaten. Then you can give them the opportunity to change this chant, to manipulate it, give them the word drink, and they have to come up and just change it a little bit. Oh, yesterday or somebody else, he drank some water. I've drunk some water today. Tomorrow I'm going to drink some water. I drink some every day. So they're manipulating it. They can choose which verbs they want because they're the verbs that they need, or they've identified they need those verbs. Yesterday I bought a coffee. I've bought a coffee today. Tomorrow I'm going to whatever. They manipulate it until they've got it. Until then they can just say, oh yes, yesterday I did this. Yesterday I ate an apple. Oh, yesterday I ate a banana, without thinking about it. So that would be their making it their own stage where they can actually use it fluently. Is that a better example?
I think so. I mean, Omnia replies from their
Yeah, as
perspective
a
as a
teacher.
teacher, and then a quick follow-up comment. Great. So happy customer there. Lots and lots of comments coming in on all 3 platforms. Jen, we'll quickly have a. There was one. This one coming in on Facebook from G Plasson. Controlling the excitement arising from introducing a new English lesson poses a lot of challenges. Any advice on the best way around handling this?
I
I've got my
think
own view. I'd love to hear
if
what you
you've got
think.
excitement, you've got to use it, haven't you? You've got to use any noise in the classroom should be productive noise. So, getting them excited about a new things, use it. It doesn't need to be controlled to diminish the productivity. It needs to be controlled in using that excitement to produce language. What's your view then,
Channeling it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly the same. I mean, I love, we spend so much time and energy trying to get our learners excited about the lesson, but obviously there are 2 extremes. You've got the lesson that falls absolutely silent and dead and no emotion at all. And then you've got the other side where it's too much and you feel, oh, I can't bring this back now. So I think that's what might be the question here is if you overexcite your learners, especially those young learners, very young learners, sort of 5, 6, 7-year-olds,
Yeah.
yes, you've got a lot of excitement, but how do you channel that into
You need
something
to
creative
have
and
really
productive?
good classroom management first, don't you? You need to know that you can let go of those reins, get that excitement, but at the same time, you can pull them back in as quickly. And I think that's quite important. And that comes with experimenting, experience, doesn't it? Just, doing it in short bursts so that you can get them back in again. All of that. I think it's that's fun.
Again, lots of questions. This one really grabbed my attention just now as I was scrolling through. It's on Facebook. Okay. Luis Hernandez Garcia, the use of the passive voice in English is quite difficult for my learners to master. I mean, yes, it is. Yes, it's a
Yeah.
grammatical structure that comes up. It's usually part of a unit, typically pre-intermediate maybe, or maybe a bit lower than that, possibly elementary, sort of A2, B1 levels. Jane, I mean, we're talking about the framework again. Now, how can learners really make it their own? How can they really manipulate it in a
Well,
way that's meaningful, the passive? I mean, we don't tend to use it naturally. It's one of those structures that tends to be a little bit more
it's written,
formal.
isn't it? Yeah,
Mm,
it's more academic and written, but I think it's removing yourself from the sentence. I think the way I do it is one that Scott Thornbury introduced, actually, by using Pictionary. So give each student a sentence and in the passive form and 2 minutes to draw a picture. And the sentences could be something like, the helicopter was flown by a monkey. The penguin was kissed by a teacher. Anything that's in the passive form, but they only have 2 minutes to draw. And that's great. Then you put the sentences around the wall, and this is the manipulate bit. So that's where you've introduced it. They've all got a sentence. They've identified which part of the sentence it is. The manipulate bit, where they put it around the wall, pictures around the wall, and they have to create their own sentence about the picture in the passive. Now, what they come up with is not necessarily what's been drawn, and that's fine, because you want them to be able to use it. So if they look at a picture and they don't see the same thing, it's fine, as long as they can identify one person or something, and it was done, had something done to it. Is that right? And written it in the correct form. And the idea here would be that they're using the language that they already know, but in the passive form. So they should, if they're ready to do the passive, they should already know the past participles, etc. So they're using that language that they already know, but in this form, and then they can go on to make it their own once they've done it like that. But it is a difficult one, isn't it? This passive voice, but making it personal and saying something about something that has happened. I usually use what is it? It's a nursery rhyme of not a nursery rhyme, fairy tale, Little Red Riding Hood, and what has happened to her. You know, that the wolf has eaten grandma because, or grandma was eaten by the wolf. That's right. Because grandma's more important to us than the wolf, so we want to make sure that grandma comes first in the sentence, and so you can show it to them like that. That makes it personal,
yes,
doesn't it? You know,
it does.
you've done that.
You reminded me. I did that exact lesson example, and I was actually teaching in Saudi Arabia these kind of university leavers who were being trained as part of like a very technical job to work in petrochemicals, and part of their work skills that they needed me to help them with was writing incident reports. So we actually use the Red Riding Hood as an example of how to write it in a more formal, structured, sort of more official way. So yes, you can be creative with those ideas,
Yeah.
definitely, and find ways to
And
implement
like you
them.
say, find something that they can relate to and they already know about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with
Shikpe
that one.
says, exactly, Shikpe, creativity is so important for teachers and students too, but most that I value is motivation too. To be honest, I'm not sure if you agree or disagree with me, Jane, but I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah. And don't you find that the more creative, the more motivated, and the more motivated you get, the more creative you get. And motivation always kind of breeds motivation, doesn't it? Once you're motivated and you're getting excited and you get your learners motivated, then they want to learn more as well. And I think that's really important, you know, that they learn about intrinsic motivation, that they can see that rather than it just always being a reward at the end or a star or whatever, that they learn intrinsic motivation from within.
Absolutely. Sorry, Jane, you brought this up before. Lily is mentioning it on YouTube. I do apologize if you can't hear me. I'll speak into the microphone a little bit louder here. But anyway, we are literally coming toward the end. I'm going to look for a quick final question.
Mm-hmm. There's no one. We've lost you again, Marcus. Are you speaking out loud?
I'm mumbling to myself as I'm trying to find. There's so many comments. I just want to pick up one final one. Too many to choose from. Jane, can you see the comments? Which one would you like to address?
I can't. I don't know. Oh, maybe I can.
On the right of your screen.
Yeah,
At the top, it should be comments.
Yeah.
Who would you like to respond to?
Oh, like you say, there's so many. I think talking about the individual grammar points, I think that, you know, you have to find that personal thing for you to teach those individuals, whether it's phrasal verbs or the passive, or there's been a few asking about those grammar lessons. It's more about, if you remember what the topic of the webinar was about, it was about taking the grammar and making it more communicative and providing activities for the learners to get fluent in what they really should already know before you just keep adding more and more onto it. Provide them with those opportunities of speaking, not just once, not just twice, but repeating the same task with different people as much and as often as they can. That's how you can really get them to learn grammar. It's not about just presenting it to them and doing exercises, because, you know, students can do those, but it's using it. So finding the activities that they enjoy doing, that you enjoy doing, that are communicative. And if you remember in the webinar, we had our little finger bobs activity, and a lot of the questions then were about, could I do that with adults? Could I do that with teenagers? And yes, again, absolutely, have a go. When I've done it with teacher training, all the teachers have enjoyed doing it. The reservation is perhaps with teenagers, but unless you try doing it with your group, you won't know. So again, that's one of those activities. And that's what can make it communicative and genuinely communicative, because you don't know what the answer is. I think there's too many exercises out there in the course books that are just say, oh, have a conversation with your partner about something that you already know. Yeah, and then it's a demonstration of your language rather than a real conversation. So I would do finger bobs with every age group, because they love it and because it creates a genuine information gap and genuine conversations.
Absolutely. Love that. Maxima Castillo on YouTube. Great ideas. Thanks for the nice conversation.
Oh, you're welcome.
And also on YouTube, because you did bring it up, Egul Sidula asks, what is your YouTube channel? Can you write it, please? We've got Wham, who is moderating on the platforms now. Jane, if you could say it really slowly, and Wham will pop it in the chat.
Do I say what? What do you want me to do?
Say the name of your YouTube channel.
Okay, it's at Enriching ELT altogether. Yeah, at Enriching ELT. So there's YouTube and Instagram. I believe it was at the end of my slides of the original session as well, at Enriching ELT. Yeah. So I've got how to create that chant, how to use those chants in your classroom that I've just talked about. And there's also a free MMM course, if you can find it. There's a video on MMM in there as well. So have a look at that.
Excellent. And also do check out Jane's webinar recording. You can find links on our socials. Just go to our profile and just scroll back a couple of posts and you'll find a link. Jane, thank you so much for spending your Friday afternoon with us. And thank you, teachers who have been following the conversation from all around the world, I can see.
Yeah.
So remember, next week we also have another Community Live at same time, same place. We'll be talking about teaching approaches. So join us for that. Again, Jane, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.